Hi, welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, Bank of Ghana says it has met all the monetary targets needed to pass the first review under the IMF program.
The program was envisaging a drawdown of about $100 million. Contrary to that, we've built $1 billion in reserves for the first half of the year. That puts us in a better position Q1.
Also ahead, we discuss global interest rate hikes and the ramifications for African capital markets. Plus, Ghana becomes hotspot for online romance scams as fraudsters make millions from fake love. We'll tell you how to protect yourself. My name is Darrell Carl. Thanks for joining us. Details coming up. Thanks for staying with us, everyone. The Bank of Ghana says it has met all the monetary targets needed to pass the first review under the IMF program. Ghana is expected to undergo first assessment by next month before the second tranche of cash is disbursed. Dr. Philip Abredu-Oto is Director of Research at the Bank of Ghana.
Indicators in the monetary space is one of zero financing of the budget, which under the program is supposed to be kept zero. That has been largely respected. The other issue was to keep inflation close to around 42% for June, and that is where actually we are. We are within the inflation target band. And then the other one, which is the most important, under the program envisaged that we would draw down on our reserves. The program was envisaging a drawdown of about $100 million. Contrary to that, we've built $1 billion in reserves for the first half of the year. That puts us in a better position Q1. And I think we are in a better position to go through the first review successfully.
On the monetary side, I think we are doing so.
On the monetary side, we are doing very fine. And I think the fiscal authorities are also putting in a lot of effort to ensure that we don't trip. Will we trip? I don't think we don't trip. We should be confident.
And we are building enough reserves to help support the currency.
Well, I just told you that in the first 6 months, we built $1 billion in reserves, as opposed to a drawdown. The program envisaged that things were going to get a little bit tighter and that we were going to draw down. But George, we've had some positive benefits from our Gold for Reserves program.
Well, next, markets are on the alert under the sharpest jump in interest rates in decades. Here to discuss the impact on African capital markets is Benjamin Boakye, who is chief economist at Second Start. We'll also be touching on the ramifications of the recent the downgrade of U.S. credit rating for countries like Ghana. We'll discuss if there's anything to worry about. Good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us, Benjamin. I want to first start with this look at the trend globally. The U.S., a robust 2.4% Q2 growth led to the Federal Reserve to raise rates to 5.25% to between 5.25% and 5.5%, the highest in 22 years. Europe's ECB lifted rates 25 basis points to 3.75% as Eurozone inflation eased from 6.1% to 5.5%. In Ghana, yours truly, the policy rate rose 50 basis points to 30% amid a $1.8 billion trade surplus. Neighboring Nigeria's central bank raised 25 basis points to 18.75% to combat the persistent inflation, which is hovering around 22 to 23%. Tell us what the reason is behind the wave of the interest rate hikes we are witnessing and the effects on the global economy.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm sure your viewers are quite familiar with a lot of the causes of the inflation that we've been dealing with globally over the past several months. After COVID and during COVID, there were these very severe supply chain shocks, particularly out of China, and they've lingered. They haven't really gone away. And that has caused tremendous inflation to just take over in the West and also here on the continent. You also, right after COVID, had the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and those are two breadbaskets of the world. So food inflation has been sticky in its own way, and that has also had pretty dire impacts on inflation. That's forced central banks all over the world to enter this rate hike race, as you've described, and that's pretty much where we're at right now.
Yeah, and here in Ghana, we're feeling the impact of food inflation actually resulting in the 43.1% inflation rate that we have seen in the month of July. And so in February, Second Stacks predicted that defaults and the most severe deterioration of sovereign credit have begun and will continue. I want us to look at the situation in the US as we continue to look at the impacts of all these global developments on African capital markets. The Fitch downgraded the US credit rating to AA plus from AAA, citing fiscal deterioration over the next 3 years, and repeated down-the-wire debt ceiling negotiations that threaten the government's ability to pay its bills. And we know that when the US sneezes, the world catches a cold. So how significant is this as well?
Right. Yeah, we did predict this in February. We were looking at the trend of sovereign credit rating downgrades in recent history. And we cited the United States, Ghana, and 5 other countries, which we believed were at heightened risk of defaults specifically caused by political risk. This is a situation where, your 2 parties in Congress or in Parliament simply can't get along. There's a lot of negative partisanship. So instead of looking ahead and forwarding off your debt issues, they're rather, fighting and bickering and preventing each other from solving their problems. So that's what happened in 2011 when the U.S. was initially downgraded by S&P, and it's pretty much the exact same thing that happened this go around with the U.S. Now, as you mentioned, typically if something as seismic as a credit downgrade of the United States, there have only been 2 in history, were to happen, you would expect a very pronounced impact in the global markets, particularly in the credit markets. But we haven't really seen that. I mean, this recent downgrade of the U.S., it didn't reflect any new information, right? Everyone was understood that there was a lot of tension in Congress and that they were going to go down to the wire before they would lift their debt ceiling. So the markets really didn't respond too severely. The way that I would say Africa needs to understand and contextualize that downgrade of the United States is that in our own country, we need to do a much better job of preventing further deterioration of our credit based on political risk. Simply put, Parliament needs to work together. Both parties need to work together. They have to have sound proposals, and they need to be decisive in their actions when they're dealing with the debt markets, because failure to do that will be punished quite severely in the markets, and particularly by way of downgrades and default, as we've seen.
Well, interesting, because I've also read around and realized, most analysts predicting that the downgrade that we have seen in the U.S. Would have little impact. We have not seen that, as you indicate. But the challenges to do with inflation and resultant hikes in interest rates, we haven't gotten a hang over. How is that affecting African markets, you think?
Well, when the Western nations raise their interest rates, we have to respond here on the continent just by way of maintaining relative interest rate attractiveness. So if they raise rates, we feel the pressure to raise rates. But I think that over here, we're raising rates simply because our inflation picture is just out of whack. So the more we can do to bring down inflation, food inflation, energy inflation, core inflation, and just ensure that price stability can remain. That'll also help with currency stability. That's pretty much what we need to do to get us where we're looking to go.
Yeah, and here in Ghana, the central bank is being blamed for the hikes that we are seeing when it comes to inflation because of the consistent hikes in the policy rate. People arguing it's food inflation. It has nothing to do with the monetary side. And so is the central bank doing something wrong?
No. I mean, look, central banks do not have an endless number of tools that they can use to fight inflation. And the primary tool that they have is the fact that they get to set monetary policy. In the environment that we're in, yes, food inflation is high, but it's not the only type of inflation that's gone up. Rent has gone up. Pretty much if you look at every category, if you look back 2, 3 years, in the inflation rate, it's high double digits, mid high double digits. So they have to maintain high interest rates, and I would say that they would need to maintain a rising interest rate environment to counter the rising inflationary environment. And once you have that, you can at least expect inflation to slowly start to come down. And globally, you've seen the trend start to come down. So I would say that they need to maintain a higher interest rate posture, at least for the short to medium term.
And is there a silver lining for us here in Ghana, especially on the capital markets?
Well, the good thing, I guess, is that the capital markets aren't too impacted by inflation. When prices go up, it's the companies that are raising their prices. And a lot of these companies are what we're talking about when we say the stock market. So these are companies that are listed, they're raising their pricing, and that's, it's painful for consumers, but for a lot of them, a lot of these listed companies, they're doing okay because corporate profits are being maintained through raising of prices.
And so, what strategies would you recommend for investors based on these developments that we are seeing globally?
Well, I would say two things primarily. Number one, lean on your brokers. Your brokers are steeped in the data day in and day out. Here at Second Stacks, we're also following the markets and we're providing our research to the brokers. So lean on your brokers and take their advice. The other is just make sure you're diversified. In an environment like this, the last thing you want to do is take unnecessary outsized risks and idiosyncratic risk from having a closed off portfolio or just a portfolio that's only in one or two areas, both in terms of sectors and geographically. That could lead to some bad results. So try and stay as diversified as you can, both geographically through Second Stacks and sector wise. That would be my advice.
All right, Benjamin Boakye, Chief Economist, Second Stacks, thank you so much for joining us here on the marketplace. Republic Bank Ghana PLC says it is working to explore other areas of Ghana's economy to invest to further improve its customer deposits. The bank in its 2022 annual report recorded a 53.51% increase in customer deposits. According to the managing director, Benjamin Joboku, the bank would not restrict its investments to government securities, rather invest in small and medium-scale enterprises and other key sectors for good returns to protect customers.
The growth is the people that we have. Two, if you look at our deposit as well, our deposit grew. And we are liability-driven institution. As you mobilize a lot of liability, you invest that liability into any asset, which is the commercial loan. We have the SME sectors that we develop. We have the mortgage, and then the corporate banking. So those are the areas that are giving us a lot of income. We centralize our back office and have a lot of people in the front line. Try to empower the people in the front line to do a lot of sales and marketing. So as you empower your people to understand your strategy, which they must own it, and they drive it, that is the result that we are seeing. And if you look at the market, we have about 38 branches. So in terms of branch network, that is also helping us.
Now, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Stephen Amwa, is making a strong case for fintech companies in Ghana to remain efficient and resilient, regardless of the economic challenges in boosting trade activities. According to him, the influx of fintech companies in Ghana should aid in the facilitation of trade and also support local businesses to flourish. He spoke to Joy Business at the launch of the Transfer Freedom account in Ghana.
The Transfer Group seeks to introduce to the Ghanaian market a safe and secure platform of receiving and sending money across several countries in the world. Stephen Amwa said the move will ensure an export-led growth economy.
The world has become a very small village. You are here, within a minute you can transact a business with somebody in other countries, beyond your borders. And we know one of the challenges is how monies can be transferred in and outside your country and be well protected and secured. That's the problem. So if this thing is going to happen, definitely it's going to be a breakthrough for actors along the value chains of our trade and industry in Ghana. Because definitely the already existing burden of transferring money is going to be mitigated in terms of the difficulty and the challenge.
Chief Executive Ryan Romeo described the prospect of the fintech industry in Africa as a space to drive growth within the sub-region.
The opportunities are unlimited as a result. The account is meant to basically promote business trade at various levels. It's meant to promote education crossover. It's meant to promote access for the freelancer and basically open up the global market to an audience that is currently not being made available to the average African, to the average Ghanaian. So that's the main focus and the sort of purpose of this account.
On this part, Chief Financial Officer Olusuji Sanya called for more public-private partnership to ensure sustainability.
Absolutely, it's a good environment. I think the regulatory framework is quite progressive. We've studied very closely. I think the BOG is doing very great. And of course, every potential partner we've spoken to has spoken about, obviously, regulatory requirements, sensitivities, and things like that. And we're very proud and impressed of what is on ground. We're also coming from the UK, which is also quite well regulated, and obviously we can see that the standards are high.
Transfer Group is poised to increase the level of financial connectivity between the global diaspora and the rest of the world.
Now, romance-related scams are on the rise and are costing victims probably more in total reported losses than any type of consumer fraud. The numbers are staggering. In 2020, Ghana was the second country with the highest incidence after Nigeria. Well, joining me to discuss this, Daniel Kweku Ntiawadai, who is an expert in cybersecurity, digital forensics, the forensic investigation and audit. Good afternoon to you, Daniel. So just how popular are these scams here in Ghana? I understand we are a hot spot.
Yes, Daryl, thanks for having me. So from our side, we've been paying close attention to this kind of romance scams. We get a lot of people reporting their issues with us, and that's like the primary reasons why we went into doing this investigation, and then I'm writing this article out. And for us, from the report, we get that about $300 million has gone to waste due to online romance scams.
$300 million?
Yes. And you see, this whole thing is in two streams. We have people in Ghana who are basically like frauding or scamming people in Ghana, and then you have people in Ghana who are posing as or impersonating as white people or foreigners, and they are scamming the same people in Ghana. So it's basically like two-way stream, and the losses has counted to over $300 million.
Wow.
And this is not just only financial gains or basically like waste into the financial sector, but also we can have some people suffer grave emotional displeasure. People also go into trafficking, and then also into a whole lot of sexual activities.
How do the scammers operate?
Yes, so you see, it's a social networking platforms and dating sites. And the primary operation is through social engineering. So an example is you sign up to a platform, whether a dating site or an online networking site. And all they have to do is to impersonate us. You see, when you're signing up to this platform, usually you have to put your information out. Sometimes if it's a dating site, you even have to put your preferences and expectations out, what you desire for. And research has shown that when people experience positive emotions in the area of compliment, love, companionship, their thought process is a little impaired, and they fall victim to most of this scam. So all I have to do is to pose as somebody who basically meets all your expectations or desires on the online platform. It doesn't have to be me in particular. I can just source for information or pictures and all of those things out, and then use those information to create my online profile, and then based on that, I contact somebody online. I basically study the person's information that he or she has outside there. Basically, it could be things that the person usually likes, things that the person usually posts, and then you basically use all of those information against the person. So you basically appeal to the person's conscience, or you make yourself attractive to the person, and then that's where the whole thing stands from.
Yeah, I mean, I read an article you wrote about this, and you say language is a key tool as well as psychological tactics.
Yes. So for the language, you be able to relate with a person, like especially for women, trying to be understanding, sharing compliments, just basically trying to. You just have to pose as somebody who really understands the person, who is willing to help, who is willing to invest, and it's language throughout. How you're able to articulate, how you're able to be able to communicate your emotions and all to the person, and that's basically it. The person will fall victim to some of these things.
How do people reduce risks then?
Yeah, so let me before I touch on that, let me touch on this. We as part of our investigation, we used to think that the end results of this online scam, romance scam, has to do with financial gains. Basically, people trying to either purchase properties or to transfer monies and all. But we realize that people are using it for trafficking, drug trafficking. An example is you meet a lady online. You basically appeal to her expectations or her desires here and there, and then you promise the person that you maybe work on her visa and everything, and bring her to your country. Now, when you do all of this, and when the person is set to come to you, like maybe in the US or in the UK or something, and people actually some way somehow put drugs into their bags and all, and then make them carry it upon themselves when they are coming, like through the flight and everything, and then bring it to them. To the person, probably for the lady, she thinks maybe the person is genuinely interested in her, and that's why the person is trying to bring her to the country. But you realize that the person is just trying to traffic drugs or something over the borders, and then bring it to her. And some ladies are fallen victim to this. Some of them have been arrested, and the end goal is that you can't even explain yourself, because you don't know the motive of the person. It just happens that you've been caught up in such situation. So for people to protect themselves, obviously as a preventive measure, it's good to be online. It's good to be on all of these social media platforms. People want to meet love. They want companionship and all. But one thing you have to know is that a lot of people are on these platforms. People are real. Some of them are very fake. So what you have to do is the first thing is try and gather as much information as you can on the person, especially when you are beginning to be close to the person. The second thing is, if you can discuss it with people, like just discuss it with a friend. Sometimes I tell my friends that if you are in a relationship or something, just show the images or the videos of your girlfriend or your boyfriend to your friends. You never know where maybe somebody has met that particular person before. And we as much as the online platform is obviously for the good, people are taking very dangerous measures and are pursuing dangerous activities on this platform. So gather as much information as you can. When people are beginning to be demanding or trying to ask you very deep questions or very personal questions, be very guided and cautious when you are giving some of this information out, and always in the case when probably you are confused or you doubt something, just share it with a friend or a relative, just so that you can have a second thought of it. Because, like I said, it's a whole psychological thing. And see, some people can go into 5 years in conversation or friendship with you, just so that they can reach that breaking point where they can actually get something from you. So it can happen to the elderly, it can happen to a young person. You never know who can fall victim to this.
30 seconds, if you can. Are these scammers easily traceable? Are there places you can report suspected fraudsters?
Yes. So I know the Ministry of Communication has a desk, a help desk that you can report some of these issues, and then the CSA also have a helpline that you can report some of these issues. Then also you can talk to any. Should you experience any of this, you can talk to any. You can just walk into a police station and then report your case. If you know any elderly person, whether a counselor, whether a person works in the dog zoo, whether the person works in any of the security agencies, you can also report this. Then also, should you suffer any emotional damage or emotional breakdown, which according to our research, 60% of the people usually suffer this emotional breakdowns. Please don't keep it to yourself. Try and talk to either your pastor, either your psychologist in your school or in any institution that you find yourself.
Thank you so much, Daniel Ntiamu-Addae, cybersecurity expert there. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you're looking for love online, just be careful. Before we go, let's check our website, myjoyonline.com/business for what's trending. Ghana's balance of payments to return to surplus in 2024. That's according to Fitch Solutions. You can read more on that story on myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. Do enjoy your weekend.